You're listening. Whoa. Listening to the Lutheran Ladies Lounge podcast. I'm Sarah.
I'm Erin.
I'm Bree.
And I'm Rachel.
And now it's time for, I'm going to give it away in the title, How to Chrismon with Bree. Did I say that right?
I think so. Maybe.
All right, Bree, what is a Chrismon and why are we talking about them?
Chrismon. Okay, so one of our lovely Facebook group members, Katie, posted several weeks ago about the phenomenon known as Chrismons.
There's no Z. Now you're second guessing.
I'm not confident right now.
Chrismons.
I only say Chrismon because of my singing training and S's become Z's because
okay, don't
listen to me.
Executive decision.
I'm not in charge here.
It's going to be Chrismons.
Chrismons
from here on out.
Well, and this is worth. You're going to get to this, but I think a lot of people only saw the word in print when it started taking over. And so I imagine there are variations on how to pronounce this because each person was saying it a different way.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but Chrismon works for me.
Is this an ancient thing?
So, no. We'll get to it.
No.
We will get... Listen.
So we're ruining your flow, Bree.
When Katie posted to the Facebook group about Chrismons, I had no idea what she was talking about. And it wasn't until someone else in the group who I go to church with said, "Oh yeah, we have those at church on our Christmas tree in the sanctuary every Christmas." So I knew of them. I just didn't know what they were called. And so we put a poll out on Facebook.
As we do.
As we do, because science, hello. Basically asking the members, do you, either at home or church or both, do you deck the halls with Chrismons, basically? And we had a lot of people, I think a majority of the people said they do. And a minority of the people said that they don't, but we also had sort of this middle group who were like, what are Chrismons? I have no idea what this is. And so I would encourage all of you who voted that way, who said, I'm not sure what these are, to just make note at church sometime during Advent or Christmas, if you have a Christmas tree in your sanctuary, is it decorated with these sort of white and gold ornaments that are sort of symbols of Christianity?
They might be made of styrofoam.
They could be. So that's what I knew them as. I was like, oh, our church just wants to decorate the tree with classy Jesus ornaments. I didn't realize that was the term that was used to describe them. So a little bit of background on the history of Chrismons. So, this is not a tradition that is of old, necessarily. Chrismons were created in 1957. Her name was Frances Kipps Spencer. She was a member of Ascension Lutheran Church in Danville, Virginia.
It's a Lutheran thing?
It is. It was
a Lutheran tradition.
Originated in the Lutheran Church.
That's amazing.
I'm not sure it's LCMS, given that their pastor or one of their pastors has been a woman.
Time.
Okay.
But still Lutheran origins, nevertheless. Frances did a lot of work in fashion. I think it had said that she had worked in department stores and was very involved in creative and artsy and all of that. So in her church life, she started to think about, okay, how can we decorate our Christmas tree that's sort of the departure from red and green and gold and tinsel and colored lights and stuff. This is sort of, Chrismons is sort of a departure from that, because it didn't seem, to Frances, it didn't seem appropriate that that's how we would decorate our Christmas trees. Basically, what Frances did in sort of her invention, her sort of creative process of these, is she asked herself, okay, how would Mary, the mother of Jesus, how would she celebrate his birthday? And she sort of, Chrismons is sort of this extension of, well, she would have made him a birthday. It's the 1950s. She would have made him a birthday cake, would have put his name on it, put birthday candles on it, and in that day and age, that was the appropriate thing to do. And so instead of using Arabic characters, the Jesus, she opted for the Greek characters. The Cairo, the sort of the X overlaid on the, I call it the PX. That was...
Just because purists are going to get to us, I think we use Arabic numerals.
Numerals.
Roman or Latin.
Anyway, we know what we're talking about.
Yeah,
it's the ABCs instead of
It's
using the ABCs.
Instead of using
characters,
instead of using the letters that we would read as Jesus in English, she made the Cairo, and so the Cairo symbol was one of the earliest Chrismons that she made. And so Chrismon, I've seen it spelled with a T, I've seen it spelled without a T. Christmon. I think the T is optional somewhere down the line because I've seen it spelled both ways. But it's basically sort of this portmanteau of Christmas or Christ and monogram.
Oh,
right.
I wondered what. Oh, that makes so much more sense now.
So the Greek, so combining Christ and monogram is the Greek basically characters that she was using. That's how she came up with the name Chrismon.
That is, wow.
Right. And
Mind
so,
blown.
I know. So it kind of took off after that. You had sort of the Cairo, you had Alpha and Omega. Over the years, she added to sort of the catalog of Chrismon patterns, if you will, things based on the Beatitudes. Anything really that was a reference to the life, ministry, activities, nature, names, or teachings of Jesus. Sometimes you see early church symbols like the ichthus. You see symbols that represent the sacraments. It could be like a chalice or a baptismal shell. You sometimes see Old Testament symbols as well. I've seen Noah's Ark before. And so it's really sort of this way of decorating Christmas trees that sort of point to Christ. And so it goes beyond different types of crosses and Greek characters. But whatever the case may be, the objective of Chrismons is to always point beyond themselves to God. And in one of the writings that I found from the Danville Fine Arts Museum of Fine Arts and History,
oh boy,
is where I got this is certified. Okay, the vital feature of each concept the vital feature of the concept is that each design must proclaim some truth about God as seen in Jesus, and so. Like I said, it kind of goes beyond Greek characters. It goes beyond the Jesus fish. It goes beyond the different crosses. Sometimes you see things like pelicans, peacocks, boat anchors, which can all sort of resemble Christ or be a symbol of Christ as determined in like the early church. So you get sort of these interesting... Sometimes you just get these really interesting, like pelican Christmas ornaments on your little Chrismons tree. It's very interesting. Since 1957, it's obviously snowballed. I think a majority
Styrofoam
of
ball.
yeah, right. And Chrismons can basically. Here's my takeaway in my research about Chrismons is they generally are gold and white. And they need to point to Jesus. It doesn't matter if you make them out of styrofoam, out of paper. I've seen them like laser cut acrylic.
Oh.
Sewn together. Like, everyone sort of has their own way of making them. They just really have to abide by those few sort of requirements.
I would love to see an origami Christmas tree.
Oh, that would be nice.
Wouldn't that be
would be
amazing?
That would.
That would be great.
I don't have the skill for that, but somebody needs to do that.
I don't
I
either.
really,
That's a lot of
I really love
folding.
this
I know.
tradition because it's so, well, female. As the Lutheran Ladies, I'm sure you can say this. This was something that was cooked up by a church lady who said, "How can we make our Christmas trees more point more to Christ?" And got out her styrofoam and her sequins and her hot glue gun and came up with something. And they are very, very useful. Now, when my husband was pastoring a parish, the children's sermons for Advent wrote themselves because he could just pull the kids over to the tree and say, point to a Chrismon, point to one that interests you. And then he would craft a children's message around this. This is a symbol for Christ, and here's why, and here's what, it tells us about Jesus, this wonderful truth about the baby who is going to be in the manger on Christmas Eve. And so it became this really wonderful sermon illustration that just, he did this several years in a row and never ran out.
Wow.
And the kids always enjoyed them, although several ladies would come to me at various points and say, could you just talk to the Sunday school children and make sure they don't play with the Chrismons because they were a lot of work to put together and they're kind of fragile.
Right?
Well,
Absolutely.
And that handmade nature of them, like, I'm sure that you can purchase sets. I'm sure
course.
that they're out there. But I think a lot of them are ones that were made by the ladies of the church.
Of course.
And so it has that additional...
Sense of community.
Yeah.
And they're all
yeah.
different too. Every church that I've been to during the Christmas season, most of them have the Christmas on the tree.
Sure.
But they all look different. But you recognize the symbols, and so you know they're Christmas, and you know what the symbols are. But they have this special flair of whatever church or whatever culture or part of the country you're in, which just it's so cool.
So I think one of the interesting things is with Chrismons is they took off to a point where Frances Kipps Spencer was writing books about how to do them, how to make Chrismons, and it's seen sort of global exposure. People all over the world can do Chrismons, and actually because making them fosters such a sense of community. Sometimes you have churches of different denominations coming together on a Sunday afternoon, designing Chrismons together. And so because of that, people have said that her work is considered to be one of the most significant contributions to Christian symbolism in the 20th century.
Wow.
And that's just because people come together and sort of are laboring over this ornament, but you're doing it together, and if you're not very artistic, you kind of struggle together, and you foster this sense of community and doing good work to sort of point people to Christ, because that's the other thing too, is how many people in our churches at Christmas time are not usually in the pew otherwise, like outside of the Christmas season. And so those symbols, that basic imagery is a great way to sort of point people, sort of this jumping off point to be like, why is there a boat anchor on this Christmas tree when there's a bunch of other, there's crosses and stuff, and there's this boat anchor? Well, you can sort of make you could sort of tell the story that we anchor ourselves to Christ, and that through baptism we are anchored to Him, and He is our stability and our peace, and He keeps us grounded. So it can be a very helpful sort of as Rachel was suggesting, sort of simple way to connect people who might not have a routine church life or sort of this understanding of the Bible or Christianity. It's a simple way to sort of tell people about who Jesus is and what he's done for us.
Mm-hmm.
And it sort of answered it helped answer a lingering question, and that is whether Christmas trees are appropriate in a church.
Yeah.
There's an old story in the Lutheran Witness from probably 20 years ago now, about Pastor, what was his name? Heinrich Christian Schwandt, who was pastor of Zion Lutheran German Church in Cleveland. And he was the first pastor to put a Christmas tree in the church building.
Huh.
And so I wish this, I don't think this article is online, but he took a lot of flack for that because people said, isn't that pagan? And is that appropriate? And he said, well, yeah, where I come from in Hamburg in Germany, this is an expression of our joy at Christmas time. But, it's sort of like having a flag in the chancel, various things that are not strictly traditional. Is it appropriate? Is it not? Well, if you cover your Christmas tree in Christological symbols so that it becomes this visual work of art pointing directly to the cross, then that sort of helps answer that question. Yes, it can be a positive addition to Christian life and worship during the Advent and Christmas.
I think it's also important to know, and this is a debate for another time, but even just like the imagery of the evergreen tree and the symbolism of the evergreen tree is just being this symbol of eternal life and life in Christ, a life that doesn't die. And to sort of put upon that then these Christological symbols is just, I think it's a really great way to sort of still engage in societal culture, but sort of own it as Christians.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm not gonna lie though, I am scared to touch Chrismons.
Well, I'm sorry, Rachel, because you know what?
I could probably do one.
So we have a little surprise for everybody out there in podcast land.
Oh, I totally forgot this was coming.
Yeah,
it's coming.
Sorry.
What do you have for us,
We
Brie?
are going to we're going to have the first annual
Annual?
Lutheran.
What?
We're going to be doing this for years to come, Erin. First annual Lutheran Ladies Lounge Chrismons giveaway.
Yeah.
Bum. So I have here with me, folded up in little crumbled paper.
There's a big pile of these.
This is welcome to my ASMR channel. They've heard this joke about 5 times today. It's not funny anymore.
There was a large pile of crumpled up pieces of paper.
Yes, so there's a big pile of crumpled up pieces of paper. These all are symbols taken from a brochure I found on the Cathedral of Hope website. It's a Presbyterian church that has sort of centered their ministry around Chrismons. And so basically what I did was I pulled down that brochure, I cut out the little symbols, and you all are going to draw from this pile of crumpled paper a Chrismon that you will be making using an art form that you are most comfortable with. Rachel, I think we determined that if all else fails, just make your kids do it.
I think your kids should do it.
I gotta say, all 4 of my children are more artistically gifted than I am. Like, even the 5-year-old can outdraw me. Because I was given the gift of words and not the gift of pictures to go with those words.
But you do words better than a lot of people I know.
Different gifts, man. Different gifts.
All right, are we picking these?
We're all gonna pick from this pile here, and Rachel will have to pick for you. Sorry. The odds are not in your favor like 2 times now. And we're all going to design a Chrismon that we will then give away to lucky listeners in podcast land.
It's true. All right, I have drawn mine.
Okay.
And I will be creating a
Right?
To unroll this. Whoa. That's going to be interesting.
What is it?
It's the sand dollar.
I wanted that one.
Do you want to do this one? We can swap these.
Hold on. Let me
have a
So I'm going to say
$100.
the sand dollar is known as a Holy Ghost shell. The markings recall events in the life of Christ. I have never seen this on a tree.
What?
Really?
I definitely have a sand dollar, at least a
So
sand dollar ornament.
I was planning on felting whatever I can do, but felting a sand dollar would be interesting. I mean, I can do it.
Okay.
We can swap these though if you
do
want.
We can do a redraw.
Do one more. You can do one redraw.
One redraw.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it.
Okay, could somebody draw for me and like hold it up to
Oh, here
so
we
you can
go.
see.
This
camera,
is my
remembering
favorite
that
one.
I'm not in studio.
All right, so my
What is it?
redraw. Cross with orb.
The Holy Hand Grenade of Antioch.
Yeah, symbolizes Christ's dominion over the world.
That's the symbol that's on your hymnal
It's on my
supplement.
hymnal, my
Oh
worship
my
supplement,
gosh.
which everyone will get to hear about in my episode later about Christmas carols. But yes, this is a symbol on my hymnal supplement that I have.
Nice.
All right.
Cool. You're up, Erin.
Okay, mine. Ah, I got the anchor cross.
Yay!
The anchor cross was used by early Christians as a symbol of their faith when they had to avoid recognition as Christians in order to avoid persecution.
Wow.
Cool.
Fascinating.
That's heavy.
Look at what you just did.
I liked it. That's a love react from me.
It took me a moment. I was just sitting here stewing and thinking to myself, I'm the Navy chaplain's wife and I don't get the anchor.
If you want the anchor, we can trade.
Well, let's see what
you get
I'm
first.
getting. I'm really hoping for the pelican because that's my favorite.
The trefoil cross with dove is also called the budding cross or the cross of baptism.
Ooh.
The three-budded clover represents a new believer and is a symbol of the Trinity. The dove represents the Holy Spirit.
Very cool.
Okay, I feel like we could do that.
You can work with
You
that?
can do that.
You can work with it.
I think
I
you
can
can
do
make that a
that.
team project.
I can do a cross, and one of the few things I can draw is vining leaves.
Oh.
So we'll figure
Perfect.
something.
Okay.
All right,
Oh,
Bree.
did you?
Okay.
All right, Bree. What do you have?
All right.
We do have a special announcement coming up at the end of this episode for everyone who's annoyed
Two
by
special announcements,
our
I
paper
guess.
unrolling. Stick around. What do you have, Bree?
The fleur-de-lis
Oh, I'm so jealous.
is the conventionalized form of the lily and the flower of the Virgin Mary and the symbol of the Annunciation of Jesus.
Also the symbol of St. Louis.
Also the
And
symbol of
Detroit.
St. Louis.
And everything French.
And
Correct.
yeah, I was going to say France.
This is so magical, you guys.
Fleur-de-lis are my favorite. Do you have anything else for us, Bree? You're
Thanks,
done.
Merry-
All right.
Merry Christmas, fam.
I think the announcement is from Rachel. Isn't the announcement from Rachel?
It is.
Oh,
It
boy.
is. We have been for the last couple of weeks trying to figure out what kind of book we want to read together in the Lutheran Ladies Book Club. Thank you to everyone, by the way, who took part in our Facebook group surveys. We learned that our Lutheran ladies like to read books of all lengths, of all ages, of all difficulty levels, that we love variety, that we read books by Lutherans, books by Christians who are not Lutheran, but maybe someday will be, even books by non-Christians who have something interesting to say. So it was really wonderful to get to know everyone's reading habits a little bit that way. One of the most interesting questions for me is which genres of books do you enjoy reading most? And the two top answers to that question were historical fiction, like almost 200 people, and just over 100 people like literary fiction. So our first pick is going to be somewhere in that category. We are going to mix it up. Future picks will include nonfiction, will include lots of different kinds of books. But since the fiction folks were clearly dominant in our polls, we'll do that. So I have two final poll questions for you ladies in the studio because I narrowed it down to 6 books.
Oh, 6.
And I know
Okay.
my original list is about 2 dozen.
See,
So
I have a hymn nerdery thing. You have a book nerdery thing.
oh
and
my
it's
goodness,
cool.
it's really bad.
It's
okay.
not bad. It's amazing.
So 2 questions for you, and since there are 3 of you, we won't have any ties. All right.
boy.
Would you rather read historical fiction written from the perspective of a young woman coming of age, or historical fiction written from the perspective of an old woman or an old man, in one case, looking back on their life. So beginning of life, end of life, because the 6 books all fit in one of those 2 categories.
Beginning.
I'm also going to go with beginning.
Okay, then it doesn't matter. I couldn't decide.
Doesn't matter.
So
All right.
Okay,
I like
beginning.
both.
Coming of age
Okay,
story.
so we have 3 options, and I'm not going to tell you the names. I'm just going to give you like a 1-sentence description. So we've got a novel about a 14-year-old girl who runs away from home and becomes a live-in domestic for she's Catholic, but live-in domestic for a wealthy Jewish family. We've got a young girl who goes to live with her grandmother in rural Illinois in the middle of the Depression.
Ooh.
And what the small town hijinks that ensue. Then we've got a classic novel about a girl growing up in a tenement slum outside of New York. So, yeah.
These are all really uplifting. I can't wait.
Right.
They really are.
So great.
They all sound so interesting, though.
Yeah. So, okay, we've got tenement slum, we've got small town Illinois, and we've got
Servant girl.
Jewish family. Servant girl. Sure.
I'm going to vote for tenement.
Illinois.
I'm the one who loves reading, so I'll read any of them. So now
Did
we've
that
got to
help?
choose. Okay, so you voted for Illinois.
I
and
mean, we can do
tenements.
Illinois. That was my second choice.
Sure, we'll do Illinois.
It's
All
not like
right.
we're never going to do this again, you guys. We could always do these
Yeah.
other ones also.
Yes, we can.
Thought
So
that
what's
we
the
wouldn't be
winner?
able to tie. I
The
could've
winner
picked-
is one of my favorite books of all time, and actually, it's probably my oldest daughter's favorite book too. And so yes, I have read this, but I read it again almost every year. It's A Year Down Yonder by Richard Peck. It is a Newbery Award-winning.
I love those.
I know.
Yeah. So, and it's actually the second book in a 3-part series, but each of these books stands alone really well.
Okay.
And it's not a hard read. It is written for, like young people. So,
good.
should be a nice, easy way to get into the book club, not too intimidating. So yes, in this book, Mary Alice Dowdle goes to spend a year during the Depression when her folks can't afford an apartment that fits them all with her larger-than-life personality, Grandma Dowdle. And she learns all about what it means to live in a community and not live in a community. And yeah, her grandmother, well, I won't give away too much more because it's such a good book. So we will encourage you all to obtain a copy. Newbery winners are on the shelves of any library you go to. So if you don't want to plunk down $7.99 for a paperback, you can do that. It's also available in Kindle and audiobook for those who are
done.
into
Nice.
that. That was something that our Facebook group said over and over again. I'll participate if it's an audiobook.
Yeah.
So yes.
Especially if
You
people
can
listen
do
to
that.
podcasts. I have a feeling that audiobooks are going to be a favorite for people.
Right.
All right.
So A Year Down Yonder, Richard Peck. Will go radio silent on this until probably early January. So you have plenty of time to read it. And then we'll start the discussion on our Facebook group. And you'll hear a recap episode towards the end of January. And then we'll pick another book.
Yay!
So can't wait to
Woohoo!
share this favorite treasure with you all.
All right. So, in recap of this episode, there's so many things that happened. We have our Chrismon giveaway. Chrismon giveaway happening. So check the Facebook group for details on that. And we have our new book club going on, A Year Down Yonder. That'll be the book that we're reading. Also check the Facebook group for all the details on that. And that is it for this episode. We packed a lot into this one. Mm-hmm. You can always find episodes on your favorite podcast player or at kfuo.org/Lutheran Ladies Lounge. Or, of course, find all that you want to know about the Lutheran Ladies Lounge in our Facebook group. You're listening to the Lutheran Ladies Lounge podcast. I'm Sarah.
I'm Erin.
I'm Bree.
And I'm Rachel.
The views and opinions expressed on the Lutheran Ladies Lounge podcast may not represent the official position of the management or ownership of KFUO Radio, the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod. The Lutheran Ladies Lounge is produced by KFUO Radio and available at kfuo.org or wherever you get your podcasts. Join our community on Facebook in the Lutheran Ladies Lounge.